Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror Hangout episode. We are back once again, having covered a lot of really sublime films. And now from the sublime to the ridiculous, we are going to discuss tonight, for reasons that no one can explain, the 1987 magnum opus, Demon of Paradise. This is a film that takes place in Hawaii, but was filmed entirely in the Philippines, which is clear on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. With me, as usual, honestly, from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards, writer and creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, currently published by Comixology. And he's a winner of the 2018 Best of Austin Award and a member of the Pan American Fellowship. Drew, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. And I'm your host, Jason. I have a new book called The Bookman. It's very scary and it takes place in the 50s in Laguna Beach. That's all we need to say about that. All right. Demon of Paradise. It's so funny because last week we did Vast of Night, which is a fine film and gave us a lot to think about. And this week, we should probably say something about that. And this week, it's not that way at all. This is a truly, truly bizarre and just absurd film. But Tony, you and I were talking over the week, and I know it's very strange. We hadn't planned on talking about this, but you and I were talking over the week about our discussion of the Vast of Night last.
Right.
And David Bowles, who's often a cast member on this show, he goes, "I'm listening to your show, and I'm waiting for you to address, as people are marching in the streets about the mistreatment of Black people, I'm waiting for you to address that a subplot in Vast of Night was that the army had used Black soldiers and Mexican soldiers to hide the truth about aliens because they knew that they were marginalized and would not be listened to." And it's interesting to me that David was totally right. That was a valid thing that we should have brought up. And I'm so like, tunnel visioned often, thinking like, in other words, that guy did the character, the Black soldier called in, and I was just so focused on the fact that, the way his dialogue was written, and I was just wrapped around the axle around a totally different issue, and I didn't even think to call that out. And I don't have anything really to say about this other than that David was totally right. There are opportunities for us to look for these topics, I
actually sidebarred with David about it, like we were talking back and forth, texting. And what was strange to me is in my head, I must have had the conversation with either another friend of mine or maybe with Rain when we were watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It made me disappointed in myself and a little angry that I went and got the episode and was like, yeah, I know I discussed surely I had this thing because, again, I don't want to go, back over too much stuff, but I've talked several times about where I stayed in Hearn when I stayed with my grandfather, and, him growing up an immigrant, and then, how Hearn was at points was definitely segregated. It's definitely, I remember specifically, like the wrong side of the tracks, quote unquote, was actually you cross the tracks.
Yeah, I do remember you talking about that. Yeah.
And that made a difference in this small town. Like, I felt the same way that somebody would have a problem. And there's the great moment, the thing that I stuck with, and I just still can't believe that I had this discussion and thought I had it on the air and didn't. The really great moment where he says, hey, Black, does that matter? And Everett pauses a second because he knows, like, to some people that's going to matter. But to him, it doesn't. And he wants to continue the story. And the way that plays out says so much about the time period and the issues, but it doesn't make it that issue. But the real issue, like David said, was this is a big deal. The aliens are abducting people, but it's not the aliens. It's the government, because they know all these marginalized people won't have a voice.
Right.
And not only that,
the government's treating them the way the aliens are treating everybody else. Yeah.
But it does also, not only will they not believe them, so it's safe to the government, haha. Yeah. But it doesn't matter when they get sick.
Yeah.
And that's the travesty. And that's been done over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it's not the main point of the movie. But I will say that I have to give it up. And David's totally right. Give it up to the filmmakers for making that a part of, during this time period, this is what was going on. And it hasn't changed as much as it should by any stretch. Like, that's still going on. Hey, you'll have this job. Well, that job's really dangerous. I don't care. It's racism, and in some areas, classism as well. The poor, no matter what, are going to take these jobs, and screw you if you try to.
Well, I was just reading today about chicken plants. Yeah, I love chicken. Oh,
absolutely.
Love chicken, but chicken plants got to stay open even if you're basically sickening everybody in the place. And that's it's astonishing the things that are done in our name. Anyway, I'm shocked. That was an interesting conversation. That's not our topic for the evening, but I just wanted to take a moment to say, very good point. Should have hit on it. And I was just so myopic, I wasn't even thinking about it. And so,
I was mad because I swore, like when David said, "Hey, what's up?" And I go, "No, but I've talked about, I talked about this. I talked about, where I lived and where I grew up, and where I grew up in Mississippi. It was weird because I grew up at a time, man, I've had so much government cheese.
Oh yeah.
And
did you know you can order government cheese on Amazon? I don't know if you knew this.
What the hell? That's terrible. That should still not exist.
Well, last time it's not actually government cheese, but if you like
it's not
that
even
formula,
cheese. It's a cheese product.
It's a cheese product, but the point is, if you got kind of used to it, that 3-pound block that they would give out, which my great grandfather called government cheese, and there is
like
a
Velveeta, but worse.
Yes. Well, honestly, it's not bad, but whatever. That's beside the point. If you like it, you can order it on Amazon. There are companies that still have that formula and will sell you happily a big 3-pound block of essentially the same government cheese with that weird unnatural orange color that we all
like in the area. Well, in the area I lived in Mississippi, I had friends. I would go to my friend's house. They happened to be black. I didn't think about it. I'm not saying I didn't think about it, but we were good friends. And it always appalled me where I lived, where I had other friends who, one of the reasons I quit going to church was because I had friends who were racist. And, I didn't hang out with them as much once I discovered how racist they were.
Yeah.
But I would go over, we'd watch Thundercats, man. It was great because we had everybody had an antenna. You caught whatever signals were out there. Right.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of the whole Fast of Night thing where you would catch whatever signals you could get when you had UHF. And I would go to my friend Kenny and Kendrick's house and, I'd go over there. We'd watch Thundercats. We'd hang out. And then to have other friends of mine act one way at school, like they'd be on the same football team. Like, how can you be on the same football team and then say all this crap when you're at church? As of course, Southern Baptists and a lot of Southern Baptist churches are racist, by the way. Just let in the very deep South, that's a thing. But it always appalled me that this was a thing, and was still stuck with me. Like, when we talk about things, the difference is, my friends, like I look at all of the stuff that's going on and how it relates, and it's just that dichotomy always rubbed me the wrong way. And this is coming from somebody who's also been attacked by rednecks before, and chased down. But the difference is I could put on a hat and put on a draw, and all of a sudden I probably can get a pass.
Yes.
None of my friends could do that.
Well,
and that kind of stuff. It bugged me because that's been a part of my life. When David called it out, I was just really sad and really kind of disappointed that we didn't talk about it more, because it's such an important part of that time period in that movie, the way that he tells the story and how that all weaves in. And so, and thanks for people keeping us honest as well,
Yeah. No,
I thought it was a really good point. And I was mad because I'd had a similar conversation with Rain. It didn't make it into the show because,
I'll be honest. I had completely blown right past it. I was so, because that's the problem that I represent is one of complete myopia, where I'm always focused on my own spaces and my own thoughts and whatever things I'm thinking about. And so I'll just pass over stuff because it's happening in the background. I got my chicken, right? I don't have to think about what's going on over there. And that's the way our whole system is set up. Anyway.
Well, I've been thing that's been bugging me too is I have stories that, I can tell and about growing up in the South and about stuff that's happened to me and my friends, both white and black, and some Hispanic friends. But I've felt like just now's not the time. Like now's the time to listen. So if I go, well, this and this happened, it seems weird and self-serving, even if it would
Like you're trying to make the story about yourself. I know
that's sort of why I kind of fall in on that, Tony. Like I think that there's definitely something to be said for that, and even to the point where the the leader of the Austin Black Lives Matter movement had to go on to make a video about how he felt like white protesters were sort of taking this moment away, and that's food for thought for all white liberals, no matter how well intended. And certainly something I think about, like because like you, I grew up in a small town. I saw stuff, and I have mixed feeling, like I can wax nostalgic about small town life, but I also kind of have the Stephen King thing where I have extraordinarily mixed feelings about small towns. And, I have a lot of stuff that I love about them, but I have a lot of stuff that I hate about them, and the sort of small-mindedness that can be found in... In fact, I was actually writing a line in a script today that, is literally, hell is a small southern town. And that summarizes a lot about how I feel about it. But I'm not perfect either, kudos to David for, as you said, keeping us honest.
Yeah. And
so I this is all wonderful, and I think it almost deserves its own show that wouldn't even be a horror show. But
I don't know. I mean, I go back and forth. You have a platform, but is the 3 cis white dude show the show we need? I don't even.
All I know, as far as that goes, my friend, is that somebody's got to come here and talk about movies like The Devil's Nightmare and
right.
Demon of Paradise, and so.
Sure.
People don't have to listen. We're gonna do it ourselves. But nevertheless, I am really glad. I will look for new ways to realize when I am overlooking something because I'm just thinking about my own favorite issues, which is hard because I'm very old and set in my ways. So there we go. Demon of Paradise. Holy mackerel! What a preposterous film. Tony, you were listing out just how complicated, like if there is a deck of cards and each card represents a plot element in this mere 90-minute movie, you were listing out all the stuff that is in Demon of Paradise.
Well, I started by just calling it ineptitude theater because it seems to be a thing. So yeah, I think it's around 10 things. So there was a dynamite factory.
Yes.
The mafia wants dynamite somehow.
Yeah, they went in on dynamite selling business.
Right.
That these guys have.
Why in Hawaii? I don't know. There's a resort.
Yep.
A Playboy Playmate style thing. Yep. There's a former basically manhunter.
Yes.
He didn't catch a serial killer. There's a herpetologist, a resort, the military. What was the other one? The monster, of course, because it's a monster movie.
Right. Helicopter pilots.
Yeah, helicopter pilot. Oh, and this journalist guy who's off the chain.
Don't forget, there are also like locals, natives, indigenous people,
and tourists.
And a monster tourism thing that happens. So this is jam packed with a lot of ideas. Some of them gel better than others.
I keep thinking to myself, somebody says to me, "Hey Jason," this has never happened. I really would love it if they did. "Hey Jason, you have until next Friday. Please write for me. I can film in the Philippines. We could maybe say it's Hawaii. please write for me a movie that we can shoot that's about a monster attacking people at a resort. And I'm just wondering if this is what I would come up with.
Okay, before we go any further, you keep bringing up that they're subbing the Philippines for Hawaii.
Yes.
That to me is actually very, very low on the list of sins in this movie. Well, no. May I point out to you that Black Panther used Georgia for
True.
Africa.
Yep,
This
that's
sort
true.
of thing. Big budget movies do this all the time, and a lot of the times they do a much, much worse job of it. I still remember the X-Files movie having Dallas, Texas in the middle of a desert.
That's true.
So, like,
and the Buddy Holly story had.
I mean,
Dallas,
you don't
Texas.
drive through the desert through 35 whenever you go to Dallas. I cross the desert every time. Every time I drive the 4 hours, I don't see a sea of construction and looping traffic. I see a desert highway, like it's
and then
just
suddenly
like,
Reunion
just
Tower.
like West Texas, El Paso. It's just like it.
Yeah. It's so funny because people don't realize Texas has what 5 climate zones. I mean, you've got you've got desert, but you've also got the coastal region and the big thicket and what's the 5? Hill country.
Yeah.
So coast,
Panhandle.
hill country, big thicket, desert. I'm missing one.
Panhandle.
Panhandle. Yeah.
Yeah, plains, Great Plains. Right. Exactly. It's like 5 countries worth of climate.
Don't forget
Texas.
Dinosaur Jungle,
right?
And Glass City. Also,
yeah, that's right.
This is for people who don't live in Texas. Remember, we have all these. I wouldn't lie to you.
I'm telling you,
underground reptile lair.
Big Thicket could be a dinosaur jungle. It does have that look about it.
That is true. It definitely could have swamp things.
When you say big thicket, does it mean something to people who aren't from Texas? That's what I'm wondering.
Probably not. Like
that's interesting.
Okay,
so I should just say
I'm speaking like alien language, right?
No,
now.
I called it the big thicket myself, I think, but I guess we would call it forest.
Right.
Forest.
Well, I mean, East Texas and Louisiana just blend in together. Like there's swamps, it's analogous.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things about this movie, because anytime we decide we're going to do a movie, I look up a few things about it in case there's like interesting trivia bits or things like that. And I found a couple of reviews. There's not a lot on this movie online. There's a couple of things that I thought were striking about what I did find about it, and particularly a couple of reviews that said that this is a Jaws ripoff.
Right.
And
not Creature from the Black Lagoon? Like
Yeah. No one mentioned Creature from the Black Lagoon, even though I feel like that's far more of an influence on this. There's some elements of Jaws, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a resort, but that's about it. That's where the Jaws thing goes south.
Yeah,
I think it's honestly a lot more like Piranha. So it's kind of like a ripoff of several Jaws ripoffs, but it's like Piranha.
What I would say this is a straight up 50s rubber suit monster movie that just happened to be made in the 80s, so there's like twice as many explosions. In fact, I would say as many people get killed by dynamite in this movie as they do by the monster.
I would say that's close. The amount of dynamite is excessive. Like, what it's that with that, now that you mentioned it that way, that does bring up the thing where I guess we had to have 80s explosions in the 80s, but why you would kind of build your film around that is what's fascinating to me.
Yes.
Like, did they get a deal on explosives? Or did they think that's what brings people? Because they at some point they have nudity, so they're like, "Hey, we're going to get the drive-in crowd with that."
Isn't that ridiculous?
What's going to keep them here is the amount of boats that explode.
Yes,
and some buildings.
And honestly, this is.
I don't think that really. But you didn't come here for an action movie, so I don't know. Maybe dynamite's like super cheap in the Philippines.
I can't.
I have no idea.
Well, the funny thing is, all of the plot involving people who are kind of just up to no good, and we'll get to the resort in a second because that's a whole other thing. But there's a whole plot involving people who are up to no good. Basically, there are some scuzzbucket dudes, sweaty dudes in open shirts who are busy smuggling and selling dynamite to people who want to fish the lake near this resort with dynamite, which is against the law. And so the lawman, but basically these are bad guys like on the level that you would find in a random episode of Barnaby Jones. They're just guys.
Well, Magnum. I kept thinking about Magnum PI.
Even they're too lame even for Magnum PI. These are just some regular, and you'd always cut back to them, and they're meeting with one another and going, "I saw that reporter sniffing around." That's
I like it's also that the ADR, none of it even remotely sounds like it's live.
Half the time the lines do sound like they're being made up more or less on the spot. I honestly
I want some dynamite. Yeah, I like some lucky dynamite and blowing. Yeah. But with more reverb. That has nothing to do with what it sounds like on that.
So that whole plot, that is just truly bizarre, but really it's just an excuse. When you think about it, the writer has been tasked with coming up with a movie. And so he's like, okay, something's going to bring the monster back. Well, let's say some people are smuggling dynamite and shooting off dynamite. But they sure give a lot of time to this dynamite business going on, literally the business of selling the dynamite, considering that it's really just an excuse to awaken, if I can work out a movie I've seen now twice, to awaken an ancient lizard creature that the locals also worship. And I just, oh dear God. So let's just recap the plot real quick. Bad guys, dynamite, waking up a monster. All right, so that's that part.
And that's all pretty standard 50s B-movie stuff to a degree.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Then there's sheriff investigating the dynamite, gets wind of the monster. All right. Mm-hmm. Then there's scientist girl who's going to become love interest of the sheriff. So far, so good. That makes sense. And there's resort owner girl who just wants people to come to her resort and does not want people to be afraid of there being a monster. And that's your Jaws thing. And then there's a crooked journalist who, how do I do this? There's a crooked journalist who first starts out wanting to study just the dynamite business, but then becomes halfway through, as though this is the middle of the season of a television show where they've decided to switch his character up. Halfway through, he becomes the PR handler for the resort, and suddenly they're the comic relief of this movie, where they're constantly like snappy pattering one another about how they're going to bring up sales and that stuff, honestly and truly, and I say this having zero experience with any of this, the acting in those scenes, Randy Spears and Hypatia Lee would have handled these scenes better than these actors doing these scenes, honestly.
Well, he starts out just being the worst as well.
Yes.
with the worst, I burn up my car and slapping it. I threatened to bring a towel onto the podcast night so I could just slap everything around. Oh man, my car! Oh. And I forgot. I think it was either you or Drew said, "Hey, this is a guy who did smoke pot."
That was Drew.
Yes, that was me. But then switched to coke, and that's totally true. There's also cocaine in the plot.
Yes, which they call nose candy.
There was cocaine in the plot of getting this movie made.
Right.
Because
oh my God.
Although I will say I can't prove it now, but I think the Philippines now is definitely that's not a thing. So
got me, man. I in
the 80s, but they were always pretty strict on that. So but man.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be Hawaii, and they're at this sweet ass resort where they're doing scuba diving and what do you call scavenger hunts, basically.
Well, this guy also would have been, his character is taken straight out of Annoying Guy in the Thick of It Vietnam movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like straight up, that's, hey, I'm on here without you guys, man. You know how it is out here. Like he's easily just he's that guy who survived Nam and is now just going around. Now he's in Hawaii. Like, that character trope is the same guy. You're just seeing him in the 80s now.
I want to mention, I mean, it's gorgeous, by the way. It's really good looking, because you got to love all these palm trees. half the time it looks like it's about to start raining like crazy.
I
And then half
kind of loved that about it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think that this. So again, we every once in a while we dive into what you would call schlock cinema, and that's always a kind of a roll of the dice. I feel like for warts and all, I'm not trying to say that this is great cinema or anything, but this was an okay looking movie for the amount of money they had. Like it didn't look like you mentioned, like TV. Like it didn't look quite cinematic, but it didn't look worse than like an episode of the A-Team, and
That's true.
Absolutely. And the creature actually looks decent compared to a lot of creatures. Like they actually did put a decent amount of work into it.
Well, if this had been a 50s monster movie, I think it would have been kind of a cult classic design. It's only, I think, the reason why we would ridicule it is because the 80s, of course, had truly amazing movie monsters that were very innovative. But for just a rubber suit monster, I think he worked. I don't know. Like
he even shows up on the cover. I mean, this rubber suit monster, he kind of has a sort of a dragon cow-like snout, and we watched recently that the other movie, Screamers. That
would make a great back-to-back. I would do a double feature of this and Screamers.
Yes. Yeah. And those looked more like fishmen. They have the big humps on the back and big lips. This one really, really looks more like a dragon. He has a big sort of wide cow-like snout. And then he's got like Gorgon-style snake hair all over the place. And he's enormous. It's a neat suit. It's silly, really silly. There's a point where he attacks one of the fishermen, one of the local fishermen, who is not using, who has told the police correctly that they don't use dynamite. They fish in the old ways. By the way, the exoticism in this movie, as long as we're going to be woke, is absurd. The whole sort of, I'll listen to the wisdom of the people who are not quite Hawaiian and not quite Filipino, but whatever. Anyway, the monster attacks him by like grabbing onto his fishing line and dragging his raft under the water. Two things I had a thought. One, nice riff on Jaws. That was cool. But second, they had to build some kind of an engine that would pull this raft under the water. That was neat. I mean, if we had to do it, Tony, if you and I were tasked with, we got to build something that will drag this raft under the water on screen while the camera's rolling. I don't know what we would do. I don't know what I'd make that could do it. Maybe a track with some sort of a car that would pull the thing. I have no idea.
Pulley.
I guess, some sort of a tractor machine down at the bottom.
And I think that's why, like, it's stuff like that I think that's why, like, again, this is a schlocky movie, but I kind of give it a bit more of a pass because one, it was fun because all of the characters are ridiculous, all of them, every single one of them. But two, there's some, in actual like low budget ingenuity. I mean, it's not like, we were just talking about Vast of Night again. Vast of Night is a testament of what you can do with very little money, and you can make a pretty smart artistic movie. This is not that.
This is what happens when you're, again, maybe that's the secret. Vast of Night is when you take a fairly intelligent script writer and smart crew, and instead this is what happens when you take a script that's fueled by dynamite and cocaine.
Where it's literally, that's the difference. These guys have been given very little money to do an exploitative monster movie, and they're just going to do it, and you're going to rattle it off, and you're going to, the only thing that I think is overdoing it in this movie is the lazy over plotting of the movie. There's just way too much plot.
But it's not. There is too much plot, but at the same time, it doesn't slow down the pacing. Like there's
True.
so many slow schlocky movies that we watch that have weird pacing. I was never bored with this because even the point where it's again ridiculous, it just sort of feels like you're watching a Saturday Night Live skit. And I think I even commented on Messenger back and forth with y'all. I thought the hero kind of looks like Kevin Nealon, so it helps that.
when you
even
said
a little
that,
bit.
oh yeah, when you said that, I had in my notes that I was writing down, like off dimension Kevin Nealon, and then also the scientist herpetologist gave me like Sister of Shelley Long vibes. Like the way that her delivery and the way that she approaches the character, she could have come to visit Cheers at any point in time.
Yes. I do like the idea of the smug herpetologist who is here trying to prove theories nobody else believes. It is cool that the only two, well, no, there's three main women characters in this movie. One is like a Playboy bunny, but the other two are essentially
Or magazine people recognize her from.
yeah. She's famous. But the other two, one woman is running this resort and the other is a scientist. So they're competent women who are ordering people around. That's pretty cool.
Hell, even the Playboy Playmate is fairly competent. She steals cocaine from 2 dynamite smugglers.
That's totally true. I also love the believability of the dynamite smuggler, that he just looks like this sweaty, like that open shirt that he had. You really get the impression he hasn't washed that shirt, or indeed possibly himself, in weeks. It's just oh my gosh, with the droopy red mustache and everything.
There was a lot of mustaches in this movie. Speaking of like it sometimes looking like a Saturday Night Live spoof of a B movie. Some of the times it looked like like they have these cops and mustaches, and I almost thought they were wearing fake, just glue-on mustaches. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were real mustaches. But I kept thinking, it's like, is that a fake mustache?
Well,
No.
our hero does not have a mustache. Our hero,
he does not.
He has
He has an awesome hat, though.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He has his Duke hat. So the movie eventually, just like with Jaws, they fuss around for a while with denying that there's a problem and yada yada, and finally they have to admit that there is a problem. There's a monster that's eaten people, and so they decide they're gonna go after it. And two interesting things happen before they go hunting it, which I want to get to next.
Wait,
they attack it at first with a helicopter. And Tony, would you like to explain?
No, wait, when you're jumping way ahead, that's
Okay.
like at the end. You got to start from the start, where
all right.
The dynamite smugglers leave a boat full of dynamite fishermen, and this sets the tone. It leaves the monster attacks the dynamite fishermen.
Yes.
They, again, ineptitude theater, drop some dynamite.
Yes.
Blow up the boat. The cops go out to the boat and go, guess these guys blew themselves up. Well, and they just drive off. Like, there's no investigation. There's no, like, maybe we should see if there's some bodies. Let's see what's going on. No. The cops just go, well, at least we shrugged. And then
yes.
they leave. They leave the scene. And that's the stage for the cops. While the other guys are off with their ADR voices going, yeah, we like to sell more dynamite. Oh yeah, we would sure like to make that money that we're talking about. These are our characters. And that's how.
Yes.
Yeah, it isn't until way later and several more.
Oh no. I was essentially skipping towards the end.
Yeah,
I was because we don't have to walk our way through all of the many segments of this film, because I want to get to the monster. They go after this monster first.
But before that, so at some point they hear about the monster attacks people. The scientist goes, hey, there's probably a monster. This looks like a real thing. The cop who used to be, it was Reno, right?
According to the
find a serial killer in Reno, which the journalist points out, haha, man, I should do a story on this. You didn't think I knew it. That guy is basically Manhunter, but we can't say that.
Yes.
And
he failed to catch a guy in Reno. Yes.
And that's why he's, why it's such a big deal. Hey, if he can catch this serial killing monster, then maybe there'll be some retribution. So he can, maybe put his mind at ease. I don't know. So then with the promise of satin sheets and comfort, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, our hotel resort owner goes, "Hey, why don't you dress up in a gorilla suit and we're gonna get tourists we're gonna make this a monster destination."
Yes.
Now, when that goes south, because the the reason it goes south though is because there's 20 things. The mafia gets involved. Why the mafia can't make its own dynamite or get in on? We're never really privy to that. But
They don't have dynamite in the continental United States, Tony.
In Hawaii, the mafia.
You have to get it from Hawaii.
Yes. The Hawaiian mafia. The Hawaiian arm of the mafia needs dynamite, and they want to get in on this lucrative dynamite action. Again, any of these things could just be its movie. Like, you could make a mafia dynamite movie. It didn't have to involve a monster, but we decided, let's go for broke.
I would
put it
watch
all
a
in,
mafia
shake
dynamite movie, honestly.
So things go south, and things get scary, and eventually the monster's both revealed, and nobody wants to go to the resort anymore because there's been murders and real monsters. But
they all leave on a bus. And she's like, "No, don't go," and they all go.
But they're bussed in because she's like, "Hey, it's monster time."
Yes. By the way,
there's a monster egg hunt. There's a monster egg hunt as well, which is amazing.
Yes. Oh, Jesus Christ.
But I'm not gonna lie. I like if somebody sold me this lake monster tourist
resort
package. I totally would go to this resort.
I'd go with you, my friend.
That's the whole. I mean, it's not a bad idea.
Can I just point out, guys, that it occurs to me that if the mafia wants in on smuggling dynamite and Hawaii is a key smuggling point, it seems to me just as likely that it could be the Yakuza from west of Hawaii, about equidistant, honestly, as, east towards California. In other words, this should be, and how much more awesome would it be if it was the Japanese mafia there in Hawaii wanting some of that.
Because it's even less likely that they're able. But here's the thing: it's not even really smuggling. Like all this dynamite making and selling happens in like a 2-mile radius.
Yes,
which is again why the mafia thing is.
And we get to delight in ridiculous dialogue.
I just like to pretend that Don Corleone can't get enough
dynamite.
Enough dynamite.
I'm sending you to Hawaii.
Yeah,
where my dynamite connection is.
Yes. Dynamite. Oh man, so eventually, when things really go bad. Oh, and our poor reporter is killed. What I also love is all the scenes where obviously they just took a night and filmed the monster out in the water and just filmed a bunch of scenes. Because he's never close enough to actually hit anybody. But they show all these scenes, and then they'll be like a random
Sometimes he seems
hand.
to be signaling to them. He'll go, and then like point.
Right. But they'll have a close-up shot where an arm hits somebody and tears them. Tears up the reporter, kills the girl that the reporter's with, because he's cool horn dog guy, which you need in the 80s, I guess. And then, but anytime you actually see the monster, he's like 20 feet away until they need to slash somebody. And then it's like just an arm. Because and that's the budget. And is what it is. But that stuff is where it's really exactly what Drew's talking about. 50s monster movie.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's
that's really
amazing and insane. And they have some they also did underwater photography, which, doing that's not cheap. Again, there's a lot of cool stuff. It's just they decided, when they made it, they had to sit on
all the stuff.
They had to sit on the suitcase to lock it.
I was thinking about, one of the Creature movies. I think it was Creature Walks Among Us. It was the cheapest one, basically. And what was interesting about it was how that was the one where you had more dialogue scenes between the actors, and they introduced this whole sort of drunk, blousy wife and the jealous husband and the mysterious captain and all that stuff, because they're just trying to kill time. And so, I think that's sort of what's going on here with the interminable scenes of dialogue of how your intricate dynamite smuggling operation is supposed to work and who's supposed to stay in what areas. But right now, go ahead.
But
Go ahead,
going
Tony.
up to the point you were making, eventually they call in the military.
Yes.
Who gives them a helicopter
Yeah.
that they can throw explosives out, so there's more explosives, and they're directing them. Now, I think, just judging by what I've seen and read from other things that, because the 70s were rife with, hey, it's really cheap to shoot in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably they get a pretty good deal if they involve the military and show how cool the military is.
It
And
must
gives
be.
everybody, hey, yeah, the government's part of this. Why don't you come do military stuff in our movie? And it kind of smooths things over and gives it a legitimacy. Yeah, at one point, it's not enough for a cop and a scientist, even
Right.
when they're in love. And you need the military to come help you. And their worst shots, they're like a combo of stormtroopers and Cobra. Because it looks like the monster's tough, but no one can hit anything. They can't dynamite it, even though they think, well, hey, there's no way with this amount of dynamite thrown out of a helicopter that we can possibly not have obliterated it. But no. We eventually get to an adventure part where the creature is attacking them.
There's a wonderful moment where the creature pops up out of the water in the daylight and waves at the helicopter. He's waving the helicopter off. He's like going, "Get away!" But nevertheless, it's kind of hilarious because, first of all, it's broad daylight, so the monster popping up and just sort of waving his arm at the helicopter is sort of hilarious. But
that monster is like he's a creeper, man. Like, he's always off to the side. Like even in scenes like where it's like there's no monster action, like you'll just kind of look out in the corner and you'll see like his head popping up out of the water a little bit. Like if the filmmakers had been a little bit more interested in actually making a scary movie,
yeah,
like because instead of just like blowing something up every time they didn't know what to do,
yeah,
like the idea of this like omnipresent lizard creature could have been kind of creepy, but there's really only a few sequences where they actually try to go for anything like full on horror movie. Like there's a scene where there's like some like where he's about to he actually doesn't even end up actually killing them. They blow themselves up, but leading up to that, there's like they're like, oh, what's that out in the water? And there's all this fog and that's spooky, but the movie isn't very interested in that.
Well, yeah, there's the whole part where they say, hey, I know where to get cocaine. The Playboy model goes with them. She steals the cocaine for one thing. And then, but the one guy's like, man, I don't feel like this is right. There's something out there. And they have all this really creepy stuff. Yeah. But then he attacks them and it ends up, blowing up the dynamite factory. Instead of all the creepiness, it also has to end in an explosion.
Okay, I have to ask an honest question, and then I want to get to the monster and the helicopter, monster taking down the helicopter. But I have to ask an honest question. If you say to me as a writer, hey, Jason, go write a horror story, or I say, hey, Drew, hey, Tony, go write a horror story, give it to me by next week. Do you think that is the problem that we have as writers, and that this movie evidences, that we cannot decide sometimes whether we are making an action story that is supposed to excite people or a horror story that is supposed to give people the creeps? And it seems to me those are two different things, right?
Well, the problem is what we don't know. You can't answer that unless you know how much studio / producer involvement happens. Because what could have happened is they wrote a scary Creature from the Black Lagoon story, and somebody, probably on coke because it was the 80s, said, no, we got, people love explosions. We're going to be shooting the Philippines. We got these, the army needs to be part of it. So we're going to,
we got rocket launchers, grenade launchers. Yeah.
The people want explosions. That's, because you'll see it in documentaries about, different production companies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or it could have been that they said, hey, we have this Mafia Dynamite movie, and somebody went, monsters. Or the third option is always, man, I am going to shoot my shot. Like, I've been wanting to make these movies. They're giving us this budget. We are going to pack this to the gills, no pun intended. Full of everything we love.
And you talk about like action and horror, like those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
No, of
to one
course.
another.
I agree, but
there's plenty of movies that do that well. This one just doesn't.
No,
right,
but you were talking about it could have been
me think of
creepy.
it.
What,
Yeah.
you know,
Like how would you like Creature from the Black Lagoon? When you get down to it, Creature from the Black Lagoon, as we talked about, is really an expedition movie. Where where they find a secret, and it sometimes attacks them, and it's kind of scary. But it's even though it's hard for me to call that a horror film in the way that that you're afraid of things that could exist and
But
stuff
that's
that makes
also
you shiver to think
relative.
of.
Mm-hmm.
True. That's
that,
true.
Like different things are like if you're somebody that's like fearful of being mauled by an animal, Creature from the Black Lagoon could be terrifying to you.
I guess that's true.
So it could be seen as scary. Obviously, it's not as graphic, but it could be seen as scary in the same way Jaws is scary.
It's a totally good point, and you raised the point about what the hell is Jaws? Is Jaws an adventure movie or is Jaws a horror movie?
Jaws is both.
Yeah.
Just the same way Dracula is both an adventure story and a horror story. I think genre is largely.
It might be imaginary, more or less. But...
Genre is not. Well, no, I don't think it's imaginary. I just think it's fluid.
Yeah.
And this is an incredibly. Here we are talking about the silly movie, and we're having a pretty complex conversation now. But
well, I think that movies like this are people write it off, but it is more complicated than, hey, it's just schlock. There's so many factors that go into making a movie that anytime you discount that, I agree with you. I agree with you
to think of it. Yeah.
That a lot the action horror is its own thing. What I think Jason was asking is how do you come to this? And I think it is where your sensibilities lie, because you could also, again, you could make it just a pure action thing, or you could have a creepy creature where we show it off to the side.
I think these people, I think it's exactly like what you said. I think of the people who made this movie, they had X amount of money to make a movie, and they wanted to put all the things in it. They wanted to put I think. And unfortunately, some with when you're trying to make a creepy atmosphere, restraint is usually important. And also the other thing is when making a monster movie, you need to have your monster kill more people. And unfortunately, because of the dynamite subplot, we have dynamite killing a lot of people.
He does. Once they're in the full resort, and it's like there's a storm and there's lightning, and he's chasing them into one of the bungalows.
Yes.
Although that does lead to one of my favorite things of all. He chases them, he corners them, and they're upstairs.
Yeah.
But as they run upstairs, instead of shutting down the stairs, one guy runs over the window and just shuts all the windows, as if the monster's going to jump up through the... They gave him the leeway to run upstairs.
Well, and that's the bit where the monster pulls the resort owner down the stairs, right? That's a pretty good
there's
bit.
a hatch. He pulls it down.
Yeah. But I mean,
I love the idea
bit.
that on the first floor it makes sense because he can charge through the windows. When they run upstairs and shut all the windows on the second floor,
there is
something about that absurdity. And I'm not even really railing against that's just so stupid. But the way it all fits together, I like that level of absurdity.
Yes,
there's a certain charm to it. Because it's so, you can edit around that. But here we are,
It feels at times sort of improvised. Everybody just do some business. Right. Oh, well, okay. Well, what about this, Chief? What if I pull down the window? Sure. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, but they all run upstairs, and he's securing. I mean, it's what you would do to secure an area.
Yeah.
But it just put in my head this idea of the monster leaping up a whole story through the second story window, and or if it grabs somebody, you're like, how is he grabbing somebody on the second story?
Yes.
Although that monster's crazy strong, because when Jason talking about the helicopter scene, he basically pulls that helicopter out of the air.
He jumps. He waves at the helicopter like, hey. The helicopter comes back to throw some dynamite at him. and he jumps up out of the water, grabs the helicopter.
See, that answers my thing. Maybe he was scared. He's like, I saw that thing jump and grab a helicopter. I better shut these I better shut these second floor windows. He might jump through here. So I guess maybe it makes sense.
Oh my God.
The guy did see him grab a helicopter and pull it down. So yeah, it makes sense now that you put it that way. Who the hell knows what this monster will do?
I love that the after that point is kind of, they go out hunting for the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 20 minutes really is an expedition to look for a monster.
Yeah.
Where they're sneaking around a cave, they're trying to figure out how they're gonna so there's some again, this is desperately silly because it's a big monster in a suit and he's just standing around occasionally hiding behind rocks,
It's interesting to me the threshold. If I was okay, let's say I'm running this is a Dungeons and Dragons game and I'm trying to come up with stat for this monster. He appears to be bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But the scientist lady somehow gets him every time with a tranquilizer gun.
She's the best shot in the whole movie.
Yeah.
She must have tranked the hell out. She is amazing because she shoots. Not only does she trank him, she shoots it right in the mouth twice.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at least a dozen. I could be wrong. Maybe it's a little less, but I'm estimating around a dozen guys with submachine guns and one guy with a shotgun can't hit anything.
Well, explain to me why at the end, though, they're able to absolutely vaporize this monster.
Because they threw 6 grenades at him.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
It would have been more on point.
Had it been dynamite?
If they had been dynamite. Why did they use dynamite to kill the monster?
Because the military doesn't carry dynamite.
I guess.
Carries grenades.
They
Look, the bad guys carry dynamite, Drew. The good guys carry grenades. They're legit.
Yeah. Do you want the army to call up their friends in the mafia and borrow their dynamite?
Yes, actually. That would have made me very happy.
We're going on the air legitimacy. The terrible, not able to hit anything submachine gun army is actually really good with grenades. Which reminds me,
can you really be bad with grenades? I mean, you don't have to aim that
probably.
hard.
I mean, if you've seen the guys with dynamite, they're
grenades.
just willing to throw it in anything.
You can be plenty bad with grenades. First of all, you can not throw it far enough. Second, you can start to throw it and accidentally drop it behind you.
Right.
Which sounds absurd, but is completely possible with something that weighs 8 pounds.
The thing where you just have bad gloves and drop it, blow up your helicopter.
Yes. No, exactly. But I love that they managed to sock this thing. He manages to throw the grenade just perfectly so that it explodes by the time it hits right under the creature's jaw and just takes it apart stem to stern. It's
they throw one, it seems to hit it, and then the commander goes. And what's interesting too is by this point your heroic sheriff is no longer really even in charge.
He's like a side character.
Yeah.
He can't hit anything with that shotgun anyway, so why not let the military do it? It does. That does remind me. There was a year at Fantastic Fest where there were all these great action movies from various parts of Asia, but for some reason in the track, because I usually go for that track. If there's an action movie track more than gory horror or existential angst in genre, I'm going to go for the for the Yellow Sea, for any Johnny Toe movie, whatever,
sure.
That kind of thing. There was one year where everybody had grenades in these movies, and it was amazing. And it's this is overall in most of these.
By the way, I said a grenade weighs 8 pounds. I don't know why I said that.
No, it's much less.
This is way too
but,
heavy. But whatever.
Anyway, in a lot of places, outside of the U.S., a gun is a rarity.
Yeah.
In many, many, many places, and so that's why it's such a big deal that the bad guys have guns. But for some reason, in these movies, not only do they had relatively few guns, but every nefarious organization, and then the police would get a hold of them because they would grab them from these people. There was just grenades everywhere, and it was fascinating. But here, it's the military, so they go, okay, well, our clip, magazines and magazines worth of shells that we've shot at this this monster aren't working, so let's grenade. And they call it, everybody throw, and they all throw grenades and blow it up, and that's our monster. But then we could get a sequel because says, "Hey, have you ever, pulled the tail off a lizard?" And they show the sloughed off remains of our monster. So he
I
may be
shouldn't
back.
sigh. I mean, yeah, that's wonderful. It's just that it's yet another amazing idea among like 37 billion ideas in this movie that is just suddenly mentioned, and that's the end. And by the way, it wasn't at the end of Blood Beach.
Harder, and he started throwing the grenades back.
Right.
That would have been amazing.
Do you remember Blood Beach we did? Was that last year or was it the year before when we did Blood Beach?
Wow, I can't tell you.
I don't remember. Anyway, and with that one, they blew the creature in Blood Beach to smithereens, but because it was essentially, I don't know, lizard-like or whatever, it's just created a million little Blood Beach creatures.
Well, there's some implication that there could be the creature here could regenerate because they have the line like, "Oh, ever pull the tail off a lizard?"
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like it sloughs off, and they show the bits of the creature running off into the water.
Maybe they thought there was going to be a Demon of Paradise franchise, and then in 2001 there was going to be Freddy versus Jason versus the Demon of Paradise.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this movie listed as a Roger Corman picture? Because as far as I can work out, I've been looking at the credits. I don't think Corman had anything to do with this movie. He does.
Maybe he
does
distributed it.
I think he picked it up as
who was the distributor in the United States?
I don't know.
Well, no. You can find that out. Hold on.
Yeah. Concord New Horizons. And then
that's
Shout
why.
Factory.
Right there. New Horizons was Roger Corman in the 80s.
All right, very good. Well, there you go.
Bing, bang, boom.
So he's the distributor. But I mean, yeah.
By the way, can I also, another baffling part of this, and again, people getting work, it's hard to make a movie, but the score fascinated me. Like, utterly just, there's some great bits, but it's so weird. There's a point where they're examining like an area where somebody's been attacked, and it's this poignant, it's so weird. It's this poignant theme, which makes it so much more, it's not weighty. It sounds like a sad, like they should be, I don't know, not at a funeral, but it feels like that. There's another part where it straight up sounds like Street Fighter 2.
Yes. Yeah.
It literally sounds like one of the stages in Street Fighter 2. And there's a point close to the end where it's just crazy beeps.
So, okay, while I was looking up the thing about who distributed this, I just discovered another crazy thing about this movie. This is a remake of an earlier film.
Creature from the Haunted Sea, right?
Up from the Depths, which is a Jaws ripoff. The monster in that looks kind of like a shark lizard hybrid thing. It's a movie from 1979. It wasn't even that much older.
Yeah.
But a lot of people apparently think that Demon of Paradise is the better of the two. Now I gotta see how bad this.
What was the name of the original one?
Up from the Depths.
From the Depths.
1979.
I would love
definitely
Up from the Depths. 30 stories high.
I gotta say that has my name all over it. I have to see anything called anything like that. It says here the staff and vacationers at a first-class resort on the island of Maui are beginning to mysteriously disappear. A biologist believes an underwater earthquake has caused a giant and hungry dormant prehistoric fish to be released from its slumber. All right. Yeah, okay, sure.
So two things. A, I would love it if the makers of Street Sharks said, yeah, we totally just saw Up from the Depths, and that's how we decided to make Street Sharks. That would be amazing. B, how do we get to make the movie where one of these monsters just rips through Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah. Doesn't that sound like something
it doesn't, okay, maybe Mar-a-Lago's too polarizing, but just rich people being richy rich and just being clueless, and then a monster just rips the hell through it. Where
I am looking at pictures from the monster from Up from the Depths, and oh my lord, that thing is corny.
Nice. But how do we get also good. Can you imagine if you added a monster to Poseidon Adventure?
Yes.
Why hasn't that been made?
I don't know, but like Think of the Poseidon Adventure now.
Wait, didn't that get done? Wasn't that a movie
Was
with
it?
Treat Williams where a giant
Deep
ship,
Rising. Yeah, that
cruise ship is sinking and some.
Oh
you
yeah,
know
I guess
what?
so.
I kind of, you know what? That movie is really fun. So
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. That's right.
Yeah, that's not to say you couldn't do it again, because that was like 15, 20 years ago, which at least is longer apart than Up from the Depths and Demon of Paradise.
You know
So-
what, though? I don't think many people probably confuse the two because I don't think many people saw Up from the Depths. I would bet money on that. I don't know how many people saw Demon of Paradise, but apparently enough to where they thought there might be a sequel in it.
Well,
Yeah.
those apparently have been released on DVD together. I wonder if Up from the Depths is available on Amazon Prime. I do not know. That's something we definitely.
Well,
need
is it available on Tubi? Because that's where we found this little gem.
That's true. Well, in Prime, for reasons I don't completely understand, Prime will also play a lot of Tubi stuff. So I guess obviously they've got a Tubi deal, which is kind of cool. Like I just discovered a horror film. Do you know how I discovered this movie? I am not making this up. We did an episode of this show, and I don't remember what movie it was. And I was just flipping around on Amazon Prime while we were talking at the end, and I came across Demon of Paradise. And I was like, well, that's got to be one of the movies coming up, And just now, I've discovered yet another one called Storm Swept. Never heard of this. 1995, but a bunch of kids in a rental house in the middle of a storm, and apparently there's ghosts and stuff. And that sounds great. And gratuitous nudity and ghosts. So, I think same bat time, same bat channel. We got to do this like in a couple months.
Yeah, I'm going to be steps as soon as possible because that sounds good. I'm actually surprised at the time that I never rented this movie on VHS.
It is a shock.
Like if it didn't get distributed well enough or what, but this would totally be a movie or something I would watch on Cinemax one summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really surprised this is the first time I'm encountering this movie because it's definitely right in the pocket as far as, hey, let's watch this.
Yes. No, it's perfect. It is. You guys mentioned Magnum PI. Of course, it's, any given episode of Magnum PI still better written than Demon of Paradise. But you're right. If you kind of dig the look of Magnum PI, this is like that, only it's also got from the Black Lagoon guy.
That's the thing. So. It's not horrible looking. It has a solid, not a solid movie look, but like an episode of any given 80s TV show. Like I did half expect the A-Team to roll in and go, "You got monster problem, fool? We got this."
Or it's a side thing of Deadly Treasure of the Piranha.
Is that an actual movie, or did you just make that up right now?
Yeah, it's Lee Majors.
I can't believe I don't know that movie, The Deadly Treasure. Do not know
it. It had another
man.
name too.
I want to see the A-Team, the Fall Guy, and let's see, Magnum PI, of course, team up to take out the demon.
Killer Fish was, I think, the original name, if I remember correctly.
Wait, yeah, with Lee Majors.
Yeah,
okay, yes.
Yeah.
This was an episode
but it also
either
got
of
released,
MST3K or Riff Tracks, one of those.
But it also got released with, they would just do this back in the day. Killer Fish doesn't sound palatable, so they would overlay in just black. It looked like one of those like ticker tape, label machines, label maker font. Where they would just over Killer Fish. They just a big black box with white letters, Deadly Treasure of the Piranha.
Oh no, I've seen a lot of those. The way that they do that, it was very strange. You'd take a movie but basically there was a video distributor back in the 90s, and these guys sold a lot of movies dirt cheap to MST3K. They would take a movie like Marooned, which was a major film that had been more or less forgotten because some movies just slip away. And they released it as Space Travelers. And what they would do is they would make these generic title sequences they would slap over the beginning that would take scenes from later in the movie and they would make it negative.
Yeah, some of them aren't even from the movie. Some of them are like from other movies.
Right.
Or like
and then
random...
They'd run the line, the title over the top. And and that was just their generic, basically. It was like packaging. It was just the branding that they would slap on the beginning of these movies.
Right.
Yes. But that's amazing to me.
For years, all I knew was the TV name Deadly Treasure of the Piranha. But this could easily be in that. Was there, hey, by the way, I don't know, you guys may not answer this, but was there ever a Baywatch Nights that had a gill man or a creature?
I don't
There
know.
should
I
have
guess I'm
been.
gonna have to. I've been asking IDW for a couple of years. We should try to do a comic book reboot of Baywatch Nights.
Oh
Because
man. Whew. I mean, yeah, I would do it, but
how cool would that be? I mean, how awesome!
can he cross over with Nightman?
What a preposterous show that was! Jesus Christ!
Can he cross over with Nightman, which I think is a more preposterous show?
Here's my question: could you take the absurdity of Baywatch Nights and make something awesome with it? I don't know the answer. I think it would be really fun to try.
I look forward to your Baywatch Nights fan fiction, Jason.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
I love the
anything
idea.
can be good.
Yeah.
You can take any premise. But again, I think I'd mentioned it before. My Scrooge McDuck money, other than doing actual really good philanthropic things with it and giving to all the right people, I still want to hire just the best writers to take the worst things and write them. So just people just going, I can't believe the GoBots is so good.
Yeah.
I can't believe. Would you have imagined Monchi Cheese could be an amazing book that this is? And the amount of money you'd have to pay people, because you'd go, hey, really, really, really good writer, what's your number to make an amazing Monchi Cheese? Or you name, like, whatever terrible, not so great toy cash in.
Yeah.
From the 80s, but make this good. I would just love to see that, because then you could really kind of prove that point.
Well, that actually happened, though. That's what you've just described. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which was like 11 times better than it needed to be. I mean, right. they made that into, it was funny, it was creative, it was, it was thought-provoking.
But it also, granted, it also did happen once all those toy companies quit caring about the rights, the selling of toys. So Micronauts eventually became really good.
Yes.
G.I. Joe was really good. Transformers, once they didn't care about having to introduce a new toy all the time, that happened a lot in that Marvel era where they bought, hey, we're going to sell toys with this thing. Rom the Space Knight. I mean, the characters in Rom ended up spreading to, the dire wraiths and stuff like that ended up being all over the place.
Yeah, that's true.
But it started with, hey, I'll use my analyzer. Kids, here's, the analyzer from the toy you got. And then got so much better because the toy companies were like, well, yeah, I guess keep writing. And then they just kept having really good creative teams. I love when that happens. I would love to see more of that. So, I think the answer is yes, you could do really cool things with Baywatch Nights if somebody just lets you and you have the right team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think I have to look it up now. I want to know if there's ever been a Gillman episode, because it seems like they can't not be, right? Because I think there was like a Dracula one or something.
No, I agree. What I'm trying to figure out is, would you want
Baywatch Nights was like, I only vaguely know anything about it, and I know I'm continuing down this rabbit hole that we've gotten down. Did that have like Hasselhoff and Pamela Anderson on it, or was it a completely different?
No,
it had Hasselhoff and
as his nighttime detective.
Yeah, the first season, I can't. Okay, forgive me for talking about Baywatch Nights. The first season was just a straight like dark detective show. Basically, it was Hasselhoff's ripoff or Hasselhoff starring in a ripoff of like all the nighttime USA shows,
like Silk Stockings.
Like Silk Stockings and so forth. Angry husbands killed by jealous wives and blah blah blah. Then they figured, no. In fact, let's not rip off Silk Stockings. Let's rip off the X-Files. So suddenly, ancient Egyptian amulet curses and stuff like that. So that was a whole season. And then it was gone. But and if I recall, it was cheesy but played straight. But I would need to go back and watch it, because I'm trying to figure out, if you were to do it, would you want to have it be a straight storytelling where you're just going to have, cops at night with ghosts, or jokes? I don't know. I have no idea.
Here is where you find out where genre exists, Jason, and your Baywatch Night fan fiction.
Yeah.
Is this Baywatch or is this horror? Can the two coexist? Even
I mean, I think that was like Jason's saying, the second season is there. There you go.
There it is. So anyway, I got to look at this, and maybe I can never convince IDW that
we're gonna do an episode on Baywatch Nights. It's all the fault of.
Oh, and then the third season of comic books is Baywatch Nights with a K, and they get transported back in time.
Yes.
Where Hasselhoff's character is basically Lancelot for all intents and purposes.
And Army of Darkness.
Oh my God.
So yes.
What is happening?
So anyway, okay.
This is why I got out of bed this morning. Right?
So
glad again, this is a hangout
Fire
episode.
Shark
Thank you for everyone.
We may have fooled people because the episodes for Ready or Not and Best of Night were very disciplined. I think we may have fooled people as to what these hangout episodes are like.
Once you're covering Demon of Paradise, I don't know if you can be disciplined even.
No.
Other people may be like, you guys, no, I'm turning this off. This is where
you need to reel it in, my friends. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So there's a possibility that happens, but I don't know. I don't know how to not be me. So
yeah,
there could be a writing campaign to kick Tony the hell off. I don't know.
No. No. They might ask us to get more.
There's going to be a writing campaign for us to do an episode on season 2 of Baywatch Nights.
If we have to write those letters ourselves, yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is really this is my final thought on Demon of Paradise. This is really kind of a sweet spot for me. I feel terrible about this, but like I'm a great believer in Joe Bob Briggs. I think he's fabulous. But I got to be honest with you. First of all, I don't get to watch his show live a lot because I'm hanging out with Julia, and she's just not going to have that. But second, it's just too hard for me. It's too. The show is the stuff they pick way too violent. I realize that my tastes really wander more towards the merely bizarre and mildly objectionable. So I'm in a different space, and that's sort of where I wound up. And this movie is definitely.
I'm glad you brought it. Like, I know you were saying, sorry I subjected you guys to this schlocky movie, but again, it brings me back to just the VHS days, of which this was a part of. Like that's ingrained, and I think Joe Bob in general, all the USA kind of stuff, and Monster Vision and Up All Night and Elvira, that's all that stuff we love is also a celebration of this kind of movie.
Yeah.
And I think even though we kind of poke fun at this, it's like we always say, like, it's hard to make a movie, and it's enjoyable that somebody just decided, you know what, we're going for broke. We're going to the Philippines, and there's going to be 20 different things in this movie. And if you can find one of them that you enjoy, then we've done our job.
Yeah.
And I kind of have to admire the gleeful insanity that this has. And again, this is, 87. In 2020, we're talking about this movie that somebody created that they may or may not have long forgotten. And we laughed and had a good time about it. So there's something to that it wasn't a slog. It wasn't, we had fun watching it and discussing it. And that's, I don't know, anytime you make a piece of art, whether you think this is art or just a piece of commercial art, that's up to, multiple interpretations. Like, you throw it out there, and then it's up to the public to kind of decide all of that after the fact. But I have a blast. It's fun and crazy. How much cooler is it if somebody's still watching your stuff? And there's hundreds of these on Tubi. So thank you, Tubi.
Yeah, boy, I would love to have some Tubi guys on just to ask them about how they find the material they do, what they do. We should reach out. Yeah, I agree. I'm going to have a program like that for Rue Morgue on
cool.
In a couple of weeks, and she's going to talk about how they pick movies. But it would be interesting to hear from the Tubi guys for sure.
Whoever does all the procurement, and how that crossed, because it's weird too, because sometimes they've taken stuff from that was on Shout Factory, and then it left the Shout Factory Roku app, but it's still on Tubi.
Yeah, I've no idea.
A lot of the Mystery Science Theater, cinematic Titanic. I mean, I watch a lot of that stuff at night, to be honest with you. That's kind of my going to sleep, winding down stuff is MST and cinematic Titanic and riff tracks.
That's wonderful. That's really great.
A lot of that stuff, like I said, it's weird because it has a certain shelf life on the Shop Factory app, but then it moves to Tubi, I've discovered.
Yeah.
And, although it has been weird because sometimes I'll fall asleep and I'll forget to set the auto shut off on my TV, and I'll wake up and it's like 3 movies later of some other movie that is either riff tracks or one of those in there. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I'll watch this for a little while because I have terrible insomnia. I sleep like 4 hours a night. So,
golly,
I don't know, man. It's probably not healthy, but that's
I'm with
me.
Pluto also, by the way, has like an MST3K channel that just plays and plays and plays and plays. So
oh yeah, that's right.
You don't ever have to leave it. You can just keep watching.
What was I watching? I was watching Replicas. That was one last night. Oh, and there's another one. Oh man, now I can't remember. It should probably be my endorsement. But it was a riff track. It's like Danger something, where there's humans that are supposed to be, they flip it. So it's like flipped Westworld. Humans that are the pleasure bots for robots. So the robots go to the pleasure zone and humans are there to provide pleasure for the robot overlords.
That sounds fabulous.
Oh man, and they make fun of it a lot, but it's just, most of the set is just barrels with fire in it. It's insane. But yeah, that was on Tubi. It's so, now I can't remember the name of it. Because again, I watch these things late at night, so they don't always.
Well, get back to us with that. That's a really, so, and Monsieur Drew, what are your final thoughts?
I'm gonna kind of repeat a few things from Tony. You were apologizing for this movie. I honestly, legitimately, warts and all, did not think this is far from the worst movie we reviewed on this show.
That's true.
Miles away from it. I'm not saying it is the most competent piece of filmmaking, but look, I even said it. I will say it again. Like, I loved watching Monster Dog. This is a lot better than Monster Dog. Like, I thought this movie was fun. I don't know that it's not highly memorable because it's extremely derivative of a lot of other things, but I don't regret the 2 hours I spent watching it. Probably not even 2 hours. This might just be an hour and a half, but it just feels like it's got. It's epic because there's so many storylines.
Yeah, you thought there was 3 movies because it's 10 movies.
Yeah, but that being said, it clips along nicely and it's entertaining. And if you like either 50s monster movies or us, or if you just like 80s horror movies. I think that there's something for either aficionados of either of those, or knowing that this is kind of an intersection of those two things, which is, I think, where I got the most enjoyment out of it, was realizing that this is a 50s horror movie with an 80s gloss on it. Mm-hmm. And because I like both of those things. And I just got a kick out of it. I laughed and laughed and laughed when I watched this movie, and laughter is in short supply, and it's not in a malicious way.
Yeah.
I genuine affection there.
Right.
So I think if you are into why would you be still listening to this if you aren't? If you are into this kind of things, if you are into this kind of things, get the Tubi app. There is not only this movie, there is a wealth of fun schlock horror films on there, and that's all I got.
Oh, By the way,
Fantastic.
Dark Future is the movie.
Dark Future. Okay.
Yeah, Riff Tracks Dark Future. That movie's insane. Again, I see there's several Riff Tracks things actually where I'm surprised I never saw them on VHS. Because I would have watched them on cable or whatever, just because I just like watching B movies and, this weird dystopian stuff. I don't even really need the Riff Tracks part. It's kind of funny. Some of the stuff, they're pretty good writers. I do kind of, like we said before, I do kind of lament that a lot of people who aren't as good have decided they should go to theaters and try that. And that sucks, and you shouldn't do that. But I'm not mad when I see it. Now, there are some movies where I genuinely enjoy that they done Riff Tracks, and I tend to not watch those because I have actually...
Sure.
I don't feel I need that because I genuinely enjoy the movie. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Dark Future, that's an odd beast of a movie.
That's a good tip. I appreciate that. I will look for it. Well, that brings us to the end of our discussion of Demon of Paradise. Do we have anything? I mean, I know we're going to get back together again in a couple days, but do we have anything that you'd like to endorse? Like anything, that pops to mind that you want to bring to people's attention? Well, I mean, you mentioned Dark Future.
Yeah, that's kind of mine.
Yeah. Drew, what about you?
My thing is ongoing. I still need people to help me in the Ringo Awards, help me get nominated. Go to the Ringo Awards. Go to start nominating people when you get to comic book writer. Nominate me as best comic book writer. Go back to continue on for best hero. Nominate Halloween Man. Boom, done. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, Ringo Awards. I'm writing that down so I can make sure and mention on our site. I actually just got Creepshow season 1 from Greg Nicotero, who's the executive producer at The Walking Dead. It's out on DVD. You may know it from Shudder, and I have not watched it yet. I've heard it's really, really great. But
you will enjoy Creepshow, Jason.
I can't wait. And the cover actually glows in the dark. So yeah. So but Drew, you watched the new Creepshow?
All of it. Yeah. I back in October when it was first out. The episodes, I feel like, because they do 2 stories per episode, and I feel like usually one is stronger than the other, but they are very, solid nonetheless, anthology style horror, and a lot of practical effects on display. The puppet for the Creep is terrific. As you know, I've been rallying on the internet off and on for a few years now. Where's my Tales from the Crypt revival? This is probably as close as we're going to get. It's a very good approximation of that style of horror. I think Jason, you like the Creepshow movies. You're gonna like this.
I'm really looking forward to it because I love anthology horror. I love anthology horror, and so this will be.
If you do not enjoy this, I will be stunned.
Awesome. Well, that's a really great tip. The other thing that I would mention is June 22, which is coming up, which is like 11 days from now. June 22, we're going to have a live event where all of the authors of the new Castle of Horror anthology book, Volume 3, which is our summer-themed collection. It's called Summer 11. So Castle of Horror, Volume 3, Summer 11, we're going to have a live event June 22nd where all the authors are going to be live and answering questions and talking about their stories, and that includes people like David Bowles and Leanna Renee Heber, myself. So Intra Yo, who makes the amazing covers. So definitely plan to join us in the evening and ask us questions and throw virtual popcorn at us. I think it'll be a blast. So that's all I got. Thank you guys. I really enjoyed this. This was huge fun. And I'll see you this Sunday. I don't even remember what our movie is coming up, but I'll see you then.
Night.
Good night. Bye guys. Bye.